Smooth and natural body language, including stance, gestures, facial expressions, and eye contact to express her message and achieve the speech's purpose. Please help me welcome Kim Alt.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. Every pilot has a story about how they first became hooked on aviation. For some future pilots, it might have been sparked when they were 6 years old and they saw the movie Top Gun in the movie theater for the first time. Well, that wasn't my story, but that was my older brother's story. After he saw that movie, he could not stop talking about airplanes. So growing up, we went to a lot of air shows. I remember thinking how cool it was watching the stunt planes flying their beautiful, graceful arcs and loops through the sky, making that look like the best job in the world. My brother started taking flight lessons when he was 15 and got his license when he was 16. He took me up for my first flight in a small airplane shortly after that. I remember that it was a very different experience than anything I'd ever done before. I'd flown on commercial airplanes before, but this was completely and totally different. Not quite like the stunt airplanes, but still a lot of fun. So fast forward to the spring of 2008. I was living here in the Lansing area. I'd been here for about a year working at MDOT. I was living in an apartment, didn't have a whole lot of friends close by in the area, and my family was pretty far away. I had never really stopped thinking about flying. It was always something that was on my mind, but I always had it in my head that it was my brother's passion. He was the one in the family who was meant to do it. So I just kept thinking, well, I can't do that because it's too hard, it's too time consuming, too this, too that. My drive to work took me right by the end of the main road and went to the Lansing airport. And I remember watching every single day when I would drive by to see what kind of airplanes were landing, which direction they were going, and everything else. I still do that to this day. I'll be driving by and I'll be looking out my sunroof if something's landing overhead. Definitely not a very safe driver at that point. So if I'm going to get into a crash in the Lansing area here, it's probably going to be by the airport and drive off the road. Mm-hmm. Slowly but surely, my interest in flying began to come back. I remembered what my brother said his senior year when he was a mechanical engineering student at Michigan State University. He was applying for officer training program at the Air Force as an engineer. Now, he knew this would have been a much easier path, but he decided to apply as a pilot instead. He knew that the odds were much harder, and it was harder to get in, and his odds of not making it through were definitely much less. But he had this reasoning, and these words stuck with me for a long time. He said, I don't want to be sitting behind a desk in 20 years wondering if I could have done it. So I was living in Lansing, like I said, didn't have a whole lot going on, had a decent income, stable job, so I figured, why not? I signed up for my first flight lesson at the Grand Ledge Airport. I'll never forget what it was like making that first landing with my instructor. The plane has dual control, so she was sitting in the right seat, I was sitting in the left seat, and she was over there doing all the work, basically. I was just holding onto the controls with a death grip on my side, with this terrified look on my face as we're heading toward the ground, and thinking, well, gee, I hope she knows what she's doing, because she's younger than I am. Mm-hmm. But she did. We landed, and I went through my training, and became much better at it, much more proficient. But just like baby birds, eventually there comes a time when your instructor has to push you out of the nest. Any pilot out there, whether you're flying commercial jets, whether you're just flying on the weekends for fun, they all have the same important life milestone in common. That was the first time they flew by themselves, their first solo flight. I remember mine like it was just yesterday. It was in October of 2008, about 6 months after I started my training. And it was a calm, beautiful evening. There were no winds, anything like that. My instructor signed my logbook saying that I was legal to fly by myself. And she got out of the airplane and she said, have fun. And I remember thinking, I'm glad she said have fun instead of good luck, because that means that she trusted me. I made 2 of the most perfect landings of my flying career so far. One of the highlights of my training was on my 25th birthday when I flew my long cross-country flight from Grand Ledge all the way up to Traverse City by myself. It was a pretty nice day. There were high broken clouds, but the sun was poking through. There was a little bit of wind, but a lot of turbulence. So I'd be flying along, minding my own business, and all of a sudden you hit a pocket of air, drop 100 feet, bounce back up, flying along, some more drop down. And it was really more aggravating than anything because you can't see it coming. You don't know when it's going to happen. But as I started making my descent into Traverse City, the scene in front of me was absolutely beautiful. It made up for the aggravating flight on the way there. The bays of Lake Michigan with this beautiful blue turquoise color. The color was just starting to come onto the trees because it was springtime, and it made it all worth it for that flight there, which was not very much fun. During my training, I learned a lot. I learned how to navigate using ground reference points. I learned how to deal with various emergency situations, and I learned how to communicate on the radio to air traffic control and the pilots in the area. But I didn't just learn how to fly. I learned a lot about myself. I learned how to depend on myself when the situation is important, when the circumstances are important and there's nobody else around. I learned that you can be your own biggest obstacle when it comes to trying new things that you've never done before. I learned that when your attention is being pulled from 5 different directions at once, the thing you have to remember the most is to keep calm, just keep flying the airplane. That's always your first task. Well, my brother made it through pilot training in the Air Force. He flew heavy cargo transport planes all over the world for 6.5 years. He's still serving, but he hasn't flown in almost 3 years. I haven't flown in just over a year. The reality is that flying is a very expensive and time-consuming hobby. You need to fly often in order to be proficient and safe. In order to fly often, you either have to be made of money, or you have to know someone who's a pilot, or know someone who owns an airplane that you can borrow for cheap. I hope to get back into it someday, but in the meantime, it was an amazing experience, and I'm so thankful I could share it with you today.